What's up, everybody? My name's Devin, and this is Reading the News. It's exactly like it sounds like. I'm going to be reading from Google News, and it says we are live. Yes, we are live. It takes a little while for people to get here. Just to start off, I know that we're probably not going to make it all the way down to the sports section. We've only been able to do that once. So let's just talk about the Dodgers. They're in the playoffs. They're close to the World Series. They lost to the Cubs last night. So it's 3-1, and Game 5 is tonight. It's going to be great, and I'm going to broadcast it. I'm going to do a live stream of the game, so make sure you watch that. But now I'm going to read the news, and first one up, Kelly speaks about son's death and criticizes Congresswoman Wilson. Man, this is one that they were talking about a couple days ago, and I'm over it. Let's just see what Kelly has to say. He's the White House Chief of Staff. So if he talks, I guess we should take him seriously. I mean, if we're not going to take anybody else seriously, maybe we should take this guy seriously. Oh, I got to move this over, I guess. Now, let me just see what happens when I do this. And then I do that. There we go. Kelly speaks about son's death and criticizes Congresswoman Wilson. And it usually takes me a couple of these to get warmed up. Reading out loud is never easy to do. And you know what? I just like reading the news anyway, so I might as well do it on YouTube. Here we go. John F. Kelly, the White House Chief of Staff, delivered an emotional personal defense of President Trump's call this week to the widow of a slain soldier, describing the trauma of learning about his son's death in Afghanistan and calling criticism of Mr. Trump's call unfair. You know what? This guy, Kelly, he seems like a stand-up guy, and I don't even know what happened. It's a he said, she said. What was on a call? It's annoying. I can't believe we're talking about it. We'll keep reading a little bit, though. Mr. Kelly said that he was stunned to see the criticism, which came from a Democratic Congresswoman, Representative Frederica S. Wilson from Florida, after Trump delivered a similar message to the widow of soldiers killed in Niger. Mr. Kelly said afterwards that he had to collect his thoughts by going to the National Cemetery for more than an hour. Well, if you're thrust into the limelight like this and you're Kelly, seems like a good idea not to just say anything rash. So go to the cemetery, figure out what you want to say, because to guys like him, this is important. And they're going after Trump, and to a certain extent, I think he thinks that's my guy. He did nothing wrong. The fact that you guys can make it seem like he's doing something wrong is a little bit annoying, but maybe Trump, he just knows exactly how to troll everybody. I'm done with this article. We're moving on. George W. Bush anti-Trump manifesto annotated. All right, let's see what Bush has to say. He's probably busy making his paintings of naked guys in the bathtub. You guys ever see his paintings? You know what? I don't get them. George W. Bush delivered an unexpected and rather eloquent speech against Trumpism and its offshoots Thursday at George W. Bush Institute event in New York. It marked the first time the former president seemed to weigh in at length on what has happened during Trump's brief tenure. And while a lot of the blows weren't totally direct, the target of the speech became clear as it went on. Below is the whole transcript of our annotation. You know what? We don't really need to read this. This is Trump just talking about, or not Trump, but Bush talking about Trump, and he's kind of been out of the limelight. He's not happy. People in the political class are not happy about Trump at all because Trump didn't use politics to win. He didn't even play their game at all. He just used the media. So now the Bushes and the Clintons and the political patriarchs, or the political, what is the king? I don't know. The ruling class is pissed. So they're all, of course, going to say this is garbage. But at least we caught this early. I mean, Trumpism and the way that you can use the media is not good. So who knows what he said. And Joe Grace, thank you for your testimony. And Big Tim, he's one of those guys that knows how to talk to a crowd. I'm thrilled that our friends from Afghanistan, China, North Korea, and Venezuela are here as well. So people always think of the president's kind of with rose-colored glasses afterwards. But we have to remember, a lot of the troubles we're seeing now is just downstream effects of the 8 years we had with Bush. He kind of, to a certain extent, he kind of needs to protect his legacy also. Let's see what's highlighted. We are gathered in the city. We are gathered in the cause of liberty. This is a unique moment. The great democracies face new and serious threats, yet seem to be losing confidence in their own calling and competence. Economic, political, national security challenges proliferate, and they are made worse by the tendency to turn inward. The health of the democratic spirit itself is the issue. I think the problem is media. I think the only thing that explains Trump and everything that Bush is trying to talk about here, the only thing that explains Trump and explains his decisions from the very beginning, like 2 years ago, and it's the only common denominator is he's just trying to make headlines. He did something differently. He used media, he used media against itself. I mean, he got CNN. I mean, he trolled CNN on CNN and body slammed him. He knows how to use media. He knows how to tweet. That's how he won. Enough about Trump. I'm so sick of Trump. But I'm glad Bush is saying something. Trump now says Puerto Rico faced worse than Katrina. All right, I guess we got one more on Trump. This is from CNN. Trump's just explaining. We're gonna try to get your shit. We're gonna try to get you your bulldozers. We're gonna get you your cranes. We realize that you guys need to do a lot of building, so we're gonna get you the heavy machinery. But for now, we'll give you the food to stay quiet. That's what Trump's saying. And then Puerto Rico guy is like, dude, it's too late. Why are you turning this into a media circus? You're a clown. Anyway, I'm going to hit this on pause so we don't have to hear anything. Let's see what Donald Trump actually said. President Donald Trump said Thursday that Puerto Rico faced a situation worse than Katrina as he explains why he was rating his administration's response to the hurricane a 10 out of 10. You know what? He thinks he did a good job. It was probably the most difficult when you talk about relief, when you talk about search, when you talk about all the different levels, even when you talk about save lives. Trump told the press during a White House meeting with Puerto Rico Governor Ricardo Rossello, quote, "I think it's worse." We didn't see a lot of video footage coming out of Puerto Rico. Maybe it all got rained on. Trump previously compared the situation in Puerto Rico to the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina during his visit to the island earlier this month when he suggested Maria wasn't a real catastrophe like Katrina in terms of number of casualties. Well, I don't know. I think every storm is the storm is a storm. But how it affects human infrastructure is different every time. I think that's like apples and oranges to compare two different catastrophes. Because you never know what the catastrophe is going to be. Like, who knew that the basement with the generators in Japan was going to be a bad idea? So then the nuclear plant melted down, and the generators were underwater. It's hard to tell. Anyway, apples and oranges. I don't like that Trump even tried to do that. Moving on. In the article, Trump previously compared the situation to the after. Oh no. Trump on Thursday appeared to flip the comparison to his benefit, suggesting that devastation in Puerto Rico was worse than New Orleans during Katrina, but federal response was far more competent. Trump's argument: Puerto Rico was first partially hit by Hurricane Irma and then hit dead center by Hurricane Maria, which was just a couple miles per hour away from a Category 5 hurricane. Yeah, well, we all know that Puerto Rico got totally screwed. Take a look at that. That's a house that's not a house. It's missing its walls and roof. That's crazy. He said a lot of work needs to be done on the island in the aftermath of the hurricane, but there's still a lot. Okay, so we're going to be moving on, but basically, and of course they're going to get us for ads. When these kind of things happen, like in Haiti, I think Haiti would be a more apt comparison to this kind of catastrophe than Katrina. And the problem is in Haiti was that they needed more than just food, and the food was even hard to get. They needed bulldozers and earth-moving equipment, and they needed hardware to build. It was the stuff they needed was much heavier and took work. And we gave them loads of money, but they didn't really do that much. So we got to be careful. We got to give them loads of money and then make sure that we do a better job than we did in Haiti. Okay, I kind of went off the rails that one. We're moving on. Go home, Spencer. Protests disrupt white nationalist speech at the University of Florida. You know what? I'm sick of these people showing up to colleges, getting a couple big crowds that are on opposite sides of each other and just saying, go fight. And then they say, oh, what do we do? These speakers know exactly what they're doing, and it gets good video. I think you know who I'm talking about when it comes to these speakers. These are the YouTube activists, but a lot of times they're not activists. They're just talkers. Like Shapiro is a good example of it. He knows that when he shows up, it's going to cost loads of money, and both sides are going to be fighting, but he does it anyway. But I can see why he does it, but he's not really an activist. Anyway, enough about that. Audience members began heckling and chanting Thursday at a speech by white nationalist Richard Spencer, hoping to drown him out during an appearance at the University of Florida that sparked protests and intense security. All right, this guy is much different than the other guys I was talking about. Richard Spencer, he's more of a political white guy. He's a political white guy. And I don't know if he's a nationalist. I don't know if he's a true Nazi or white supremacist. But Richard Spencer, I think he's in a different tier of inflammatory speech. Spencer struggled to deliver his speech, but was overwhelmed by shouting and boos. At one point, he said, "You know that what I am saying here will change the world." At another point, he called the audience a mob. People chanted, "Black Lives Matter, go home, Spencer." "Are you adults?" he asked at one point. "It doesn't look like it." Spencer called the crowd shrieking and grunting morons, and they responded by chanting, "Let's go Gators." Well, I think the best thing that and here's the thing, is if Richard Spencer if he definitely has bad ideas, which I don't know specifically what he says, but I'm sure his ideas are very bad, the best thing to do with those is let him say them to people so they can hear the bad ideas for themselves. And you know what, maybe you should let him talk and hang himself. And just shouting over him, probably not the best idea, but I can see why they did it. The public university was expected to spend more than $600,000 on security for the event. Yeah, that's how much it costs to have one of these, $600,000. And it's expensive. More than 500 law enforcement officers had been deployed. The state of emergency had been declared. Now, that's actually a pretty difficult question. So we got this guy, Richard Spencer. He's much more inflammatory than, let's say, even Milo Yiannopoulos. Well, Milo Yiannopoulos he's purposely inflammatory, but not as offensive as, let's say, not as truly offensive as, say, Richard Spencer. He wants to go have a meeting on a school campus. Is it worth it for them to do that for $600,000? And I don't know. Maybe there's some people that we cannot allow to speak at universities, and other people that we can't. We got to figure out who can speak and who can't, because that actually might be, I don't know. That's a very tough question. The event was Spencer's first public speech at a college campus since he led torch-bearing followers through University of Virginia in August. Oh, so this guy trolled. He's the guy that started the Charlottesville. These guys are trolls. They're all media trolls. He's the one that was doing he started the Charlottesville one where the guy died. They got into a fist fight, both sides, huge fight, Royal Rumble, right in who knows where in Virginia that was. It was a sweet looking park. And Royal Rumble fight, and then it ended with that woman dying. So Spencer, I guess it's his fault. I guess I don't know. How much blame do I put on Spencer on these situations? Do I put on Spencer? Maybe we need to actually hear speeches and hear what he has to say before we can make these statements. Because I know that there are certain people. I know there's certain people with speech that we have to listen to, and we have to let it go. Maybe Spencer's a little bit too far. I don't know. It seems like if he had bad ideas, people would notice very quickly. Spencer's efforts to speak at UF have been closely watched and bitterly debated, a sign not only of how the tensions over race and culture in this country are now, but the intensity of the fight over free speech in college campuses. I think that the fight, I think honestly, this is more of a free speech fight. It's a free speech issue that's being solved by mobs of people. And I don't know. Let's let the lawyers figure that one out. Mobs, I don't think they're the best judge of what free speech is. They seem to always kind of just whatever they disagree with is always kind of what they don't like to hear, and it's always the most offensive thing they can hear. The campus of 52,000 students was eerily quiet Thursday morning with heavy police presence, barricades, and road closures. I don't know what to do. Maybe he's just not allowed to speak on publicly funded schools. And if he wants to just rent out an auditorium and sell tickets, he's allowed to do that. But I think he wants the audience of the college kids because they're kind of new. If he rented out a stadium, only the people that knew who he was would actually pay the tickets. I think, why does it have to be at a school? All right, so we have a duty to fight for our freedom. A woman in an orange tank top shouted, leading a group of arriving marchers who repeated her words in unison. There was a brief scuffle when protesters turned on a man wearing a shirt that was branded with a swastika and marched him out of the crowd. But mostly people chanted in unison things such as "Not my town, not my state. We don't want you Nazi hate." That chant is a little bit more original than the other ones I've been hearing out of these people. Not my town, not my state. We don't want your Nazi hate. That's one that I can get behind. Are we allowed to punch these? Are you allowed to punch a Nazi? Now this is a question probably that only should be answered by philosophers, geniuses. Maybe we can get Stephen Hawking on the case. Because are you allowed to punch a Nazi? The knee-jerk reaction people think is yes. Of course you should be able to punch a Nazi. And then I went into this on another video, and the problem is that as soon as you punch somebody in the face, your odds of dying in the next 5 minutes go up 10,000%. That's the problem with punching a Nazi, is that person is still alive after you get done punching him, and he's gonna be mad. So like, if you're gonna punch a Nazi, know that your chances of dying go up dramatically in the next 5 minutes. And the problem is that sometimes fights escalate, and there's people that love you. And punching a Nazi sounds good on paper, but think about your kids, think about everybody that knows you. Don't punch a Nazi, because you don't want your odds of dying going up huge. So that's why I think you should not be allowed to punch Nazis. But if you could just, in a vacuum, theoretically, if you could just punch a Nazi and you were 100% sure that he was a Nazi, I would be down for that. All right, moving on. Let's see. We are going Richard Spencer, more Richard Spencer. U.S. troops met with overwhelming force at Niger. Here we go. These things happen like months earlier, and then you get the information, and it's never kind of totally the information. It's hard to know what happens, especially when these covert operations go bad. So Vegas strong. We're gonna put that ad on pause though. Here we go. Let's see what happened to our soldiers in Niger who were fighting on our behalf. Confusion over what happened during an ambush of U.S. Special Forces in Niger earlier this month apparently sparked a full Pentagon probe of the incident announced Thursday. Some officials say could have been worse casualties and 4 Americans killed. I guess the Americans were outmatched. This happened at the beginning of the month. This information doesn't come out instantly. It's always like they always tell you about this stuff about a month later. Officials have described a harrowing burst of violence in or near a village close to Niger's border with Mali on October 4th, which led to the first U.S. combat deaths in the small African nation battling Islamic extremists. It's probably the gunfight may have split the team of a dozen or fewer American commandos in half, according to one counterterrorism official. It was so chaotic that one soldier remained missing for up to 36 hours before his remains were recovered. They met an overwhelming force. The counterterrorism official, who was familiar with the mission and its aftermath, told ABC News. They were outgunned and outmatched. The enemy had relative superiority in numbers and fully enveloped and outflanked the team. I think they got cut in half. So this was like in the movie The Rock, when the Navy SEALs go in and they thought they were being slick by going through the shower, but they forgot that they were going up against Marines. And the Marines were like, dude, they're totally going to come through this shower. Let's put this sensor here. And, sometimes I think you're just going to be, you're going to get owned. And I think, sadly to say, our soldiers got owned here. It was, another U.S. official said that Defense Intelligence Agency has assessed it, quote, highly likely that a group of 50 or more attackers behind the ambush in Niger were from ISIS in the Greater Sahara, referred to as ISGS, but the counterterrorism officials said the attackers may have included current and former members of Al-Qaeda affiliated Islamic groups, Ansar Dine from neighboring Mali. Yeah, I think there was a terrorist attack in Mali last year. Reports that day quickly came back to Fort Bragg, where the U.S. team Bush Hogs from the 2nd Battalion, 3rd Special Forces Group is based. That one soldier was missing and unaccounted for. Quote, accountability, meaning asserting the whereabouts of all soldiers in a team when they are in contact with an adversary, is a critical matter. The Army's warriors' ethos pledged to never leave a fallen comrade, so I guess they got everybody back. But it was, we got some photos of these guys. That's a little sad. you know what, these guys, these are them. And just a sad situation. I hope they were doing a good mission though in Mali, and whatever they were doing was worth it. Was worth the cost, because you know sometimes this stuff is it costs. Not only does it cost tons of money because they got helicopters and they have to like do this, it also costs people. So it's the ultimate loss. It's a double loss. So let's hope that they were actually doing something that was worthwhile. Since Niger is a low intensity conflict, there are not many U.S. bases nearby with medevac helicopters and combat air support. French forces in the region often partner with American forces and provide air support. So I guess they were kind of left on their own, which, you know, that's the beginning of every good war movie. Leaving a man behind enemy fire may have been their only choice, given 3 Americans were known to have been killed, as well as 1 Nigerian soldier and several others wounded. In reality, when you're in a firefight, you may not have the luxury of having immediate accountability. When you get ambushed, your forces are trying to get out of the kill zone alive. 3 guys may go left, 3 guys may go left, and 1 guy goes right. And the guy who is right gets killed. If you're on the losing end of an ambush, it's not realistic to expect those guys to have fully accountability, every man in the team right away. Totally. You can't. If I am in a combat squad, which is not happening anytime soon, but I put myself in the shoes of a combat unit, and I'm dead, and they know for sure I'm dead. Get out. Don't worry about me. You would want them to just get out for sure. You know what? Don't leave me here. Come back. Don't let them parade me around like they did in Somalia. But you know what? First, get out of here. I mean, I'm dead. But I know that they take it very seriously to get him out, and it sounds like they did. It remains unexpected by the Pentagon. What the team's specific approved mission was beyond train, advise, and assist Nigerian partners. They were doing something a little bit probably under the books. Train and assist is not a classroom exercise. It's typically out in the field, learning tactics, improving capabilities. It's, quote, special forces doing what they're supposed to do, working alone and unafraid. So this was a special forces mission that went bad. It's going to happen. Let's move on. Climate change at work. Weather Service calls 3rd straight mild winter. When it comes to these calling stuff and weather, don't put too much stock into it. Climate is all about the long run, the aggregate of all the weather. So the weather is just a different way to think about it. Weather is current, and if you take all the weather from the whole entire world, you have what's called the climate. It just happens now we can measure it when before we couldn't. But yeah, the climate is the aggregate of all the weather, and it takes big computers to do it. But we shouldn't put too much stock when they start predicting short-term stuff. They're never right, and that's because it's weather. But they're correct about climate. That's the problem. Is we're having both sides are talking past each other. Let's take a look. I like these maps. So says it's going to be 33% something. I don't know what this means. 50% seems like a lot. 50% warmer. U.S. winter outlook. Temperature cooler. I'm not sure what this means. Maybe we should read this. Here we go. Let's try to read this. National Weather Service 2017-2018 winter temperature outlook. Orange and blue areas illustrate where warmer and cooler than normal conditions are favored. The numbers indicate the percent likelihood of being cooler or warmer than normal because there are 3 categories: cooler than normal, equal chances, and warmer than normal, and each has 33% chance of occurring as a baseline. Oh, okay, well, the percentage are, okay, well, that makes sense. So there's 3 different categories that they can have, and it starts out at just 33%, which is divided by 3, which and then slowly but surely, I think the data informs that percentage, and it changes. So that actually does sound like actually a way to measure climate. Anyway, there's a 50% chance of it being warmer here, 40% chance of it being warmer, and then equal chances, and then it gets cooler up here. So what we're seeing is a little bit more of the extremes. It's going to be warmer where it's warm and colder where it's cold. If you're itching for outbreaks for the polar vortex and waist-deep snow, the upcoming winter may not be your cup of tea. All thanks to climate change, the odds of brutally cold winters are decaying. I can totally see that. It's warmer. I can totally feel it's warmer. I mean, I haven't even been around that long. It gets warmer every year. For the 3rd time in as many years, the nation on balance should expect warmer than normal temperatures, according to the National Weather Service. The National Weather Service, warmer than normal conditions for the southern two-thirds. Sometimes when you take a look at these maps, they're like, oh, are they purposely making it red just to scare you? Last winter was practically the winter without a winter. Spring arrival. I went to Lake Tahoe last winter for my birthday. Great trip, loads of fun, and we went during a huge snowstorm. It was like snowing the whole time. It was crazy. Had to put the chains on, and it snowed like crazy last year. So I know that just counts as weather, but from what I've seen out in the mountains, it seemed like there's plenty of snow. Let's see. Let's go down. Okay, enough with this. Yeah, climate warming. If anything, people, we should just be happy that we're around at the beginning of global warming. But we still have to do something about it. Spain sets stage to take control of Catalonia in independence fight. Okay, I'm not interested in this at all. Let's hope that I don't waste one of my New York Times article on this. Let's see what it says. We'll go fast. Okay, here we go. Oh, went too far. Barcelona. A standoff over Catalonia intensified significantly on Thursday as the Spanish government said it would take emergency measures to halt secessionist drive in economically vital and politically restive northeastern region. The announcement came almost immediately after the Catalan leader Carlos Puigdemont, facing a second deadline to clarify Catalonia's intention since it held an October 1st referendum on independence. We never quite figured out. I'm sorry, I didn't do it in my spare time, but I never figured out if they're even allowed to secede from Spain. I think this all might be a big show on their side that is kind of stoked by people that are associated with Brexit. I think this is just kind of a Brexit-style political show. But also, these people are mad about something, so it's both, and they want to at least get a better deal, so they're not paying so much in taxes because the rich state's paying for everybody. But it might just be a big show. The rapid succession of events moved what was already one of the gravest crises in Spain's relatively young democracy to a far more serious and unpredictable stage, with the prospect that Madrid could take over the running of Catalonia. In the most extreme, the Spanish government could arrest Mr. Puigdemont and charge him with sedition, as it has done to two other separatist leaders. Man, so this Mr. Puigdemont guy, we're going to have to look into him. He seems to be the interesting character in all of this. It sounds like Spain's pissed. And, Spain, my guess is their army can still do a lot of killing. Hate to get on their bad side, because guess what? They're just going to take their state back. Let's hope that this doesn't move to physical violence and just stays two people negotiating for taxes. A bad situation has become even worse today. A professor of constitutional law at the University of Barcelona, quote, neither side seems really willing to yield an inch, which means there is only a very limited chance of any positive outcome to this conflict. Well, they're negotiating, I think. The Catalan government has said that 90% of those who voted in the referendum supported independence, but Mr. Rajoy's government and the courts has declared the vote illegal, and police officers sent to the block polling places wounded hundreds in the clashes. Well, maybe if when England voted for Brexit, and they're like, holy shit, we just did that, kind of like when we voted for Trump. If they would have just said, you know what, that election didn't count. Let's run that one back, and now that you guys see the outcome, let's vote again. Are you sure you want to do this? Maybe two different. Maybe run the election twice, because it seems to be just for people to be able to say let's succeed that quickly. It seems a bit like. Either way, the latest statements from each side now move the dispute to the brink of a potentially explosive confrontation. Inigo Mendez de Vigo, a spokesman for the Spanish government, said at a news conference that Madrid was ready to use all means within their reach to restore the legality and constitutional order as soon as possible. Yet such steps are fraught with uncertainty in a country that adopted its democratic constitution only in 1978, after the death of its longtime dictator, Francisco Franco. Oh man, well I didn't realize that the government was only around since 1978. Now, last week, Mr. Rajoy initiated a request to revoke the broad forceful tool that has never been used, Article 155 of the Spanish Constitution, which allowed him to take control direct control of Catalonia. Okay, well, it sounds like, according to this law, he can take control of the state. Let's see. Let's read that one again. The Article 155 of the Spanish Constitution, which would allow him to take control. He said he could resort to such a step if Mr. Puigdemont did not clearly back down from a threat to declare independence. Man, Mr. Puigdemont, let's hope that he's got a good lawyer, because you don't want to piss off the government. They will. It's the worst. That's the worst idea in the history of anybody, is pissing off the government. And that's what Mr. Puigdemont is doing. Quote, if the government continues to prevent dialogue and maintains the repression erode, the Parliament of Catalonia could go ahead if it deems opportune to vote for a formal declaration of independence. Well, let's say that through a crazy thing, Mr. Puigdemont is successful in taking Catalonia. He's now the king of the state. That sounds like a pretty good deal for him. So maybe we should double check this guy, because that seems like an awful lot of power you can take if you just went from like a state where you have some guy in Madrid saying, dude, if you do anything, we're just going to kill you with guns. If he's able to take the state without getting killed with guns, that's amazing. And, let's hope, let's hope it is peaceful, whatever happens. But if this guy is able, I think we're on Team Puigdemont right now. If this guy is successfully able to take Catalonia for himself and do what he wants to do, he'll set up a democracy and make sure he wins it. That would be great. It would be good entertainment. Anyway, moving on. No more Spain. Putin talks like Russia's next president, but stays silent on whether he'll run. Oh, yeah, I wonder if Putin's going to run. Something makes me think yes. He's just owning us so hard. Here's the Washington Post. They got ads. Sochi, Russia. Vladimir Putin, presumed favorite to win next year, a six-year term in March, offered a message of renewal in a marathon address Thursday, but he failed to deliver news that Kremlin watchers have been waiting for: whether he will seek re-election. Addressing the conference on international policy at a Russian resort, Putin said that today's leaders have responsibility to make sure young people's lives will be better and fairer and safer. Our job is to make those dreams come true. But the thing is he totally sounds like he cares for the Russian people. I know he's a total dictator. But he genuinely cares for the Russian people. So that's why he's a tough adversary. He's definitely an adversary, and he's very tough. And he owned us so hard with this whole Trump thing, and whatever Hillary Clinton did to him, who knows? But he was so pissed. And he got the last laugh. We got trolled by Putin through Trump, who trolled us. It was a double troll, and Putin is the biggest troll on the planet. He's definitely gonna run, and he's definitely gonna win. He's supposedly the richest guy in the world if you count his like all the government oligarchs that he's associated with, because like not everything's in cash. And people say that he's actually the richest guy in the world. And I tend to believe that. Anyway, moving on. Putin's going to run. Let's see. How long have I been doing this? 33 minutes. Afghan army unit nearly wiped out as Taliban tactic takes toll. Here we go. We're going to read about a new Taliban tactic. And these guys, the Afghan army guys that we train, I don't want to use despairing language against them, but you know what? They're idiots. You should see the videos of them on YouTube. A good one was the one on Vice with the guy that's like the war guy. It was "This is what winning looks like." It's on YouTube. Check it out. It's these soldiers. It's a different culture than what we have. And supposedly they couldn't even run a generator. They had a generator that it took Americans to operate, and it was just like something that you see on the back of a truck here. And we were there to make sure their generator was working. I was like, come on, guys. Here we go. Kandahar, Afghanistan. An Afghan army unit said in the south of the country... Starting over, I'm sorry. The Afghan army unit in the south of the country was almost completely wiped out on Thursday. Defense officials said in a Taliban attack that used what is becoming the group's deadliest tactic: packing vehicles captured from security forces with explosives and driving them into car bombs. This was something that was. Oh, I gotta move my little guy over. Oops, never mind. I gotta move this guy over. This is something that was perfected by ISIS, and it is definitely, it's like a missile. It's like a missile. Some of these bombs are even bigger than our missiles, and the only difference is they use cars. The whole base is destroyed. When the clashes started, they detonated a car bomb close to the base. Then the clashes continued for a while, and then they detonated another car bomb. They also have Humvees packed with explosives. The sad truth about this is the people that were fighting around the world are people that had been fighting their whole entire life. So we went into Iraq in 2002, and we kind of forgot that their whole population had been warring for like two whole generations. First against the Iranians, and then somebody else. And then we get there and we're like, dude, these guys are so tough. And the only people tougher than the ISIS guys, than the Sunnis when they were backed by the Ba'ath Party soldiers that were kicked out, the only people tougher than them are the Taliban. They are the toughest people. Nobody's been able to totally wipe them out. The Russians, the Americans, these people, like, we just gotta let them stay in the mountains. These people are tough. I hate to say it. The whole base is destroyed. Yeah. You have people that have been fighting their whole entire life, fighting against people that are paid to fight from people that they don't even like, the Americans. It doesn't work. Two similar attacks on Tuesday inflicted heavy casualties on Afghan security forces. In those episodes, more than 40 police officers were killed in Afghan's southeast province of Ghazni and Paktia. Actually, those aren't well-known provinces, actually. Oh, they don't make the news as much as other ones. Both involved insurgents taking captured vehicles, including Humvees paid for by the United, and they took our shit. Considering the number of such vehicles in the Taliban's disposal, security officials and analysts fear the tactic will inflict heavier casualties. Oh, because they have ready access to cars. As Taliban overran districts in the south of the, so we lost Afghanistan. Everybody, it's so terrible. We got hit on 9/11. We went into Afghanistan, and we at first it was a small force, light footprint, just special ops guys. And then we went into Iraq, and then we ended up losing both wars. And we got to remember that we lost both wars that we were fighting. Anyway, we just have to remember that, and we gotta own that. We gotta hold that L on our chests because we lost both of them. I mean, I think we got a lot of opium from Afghanistan, but I don't think we got any oil from Iraq. And I think what happened is after we left, we're like, okay, so yeah. Here's the new government. You guys now let's trade for oil. We want to buy oil off you. And the Afghans were like, we're gonna go with the Chinese. And if that's exactly how it went down, we are the biggest idiots ever. We didn't even get the oil. Anyway, during a visit to Kunduz, President Ashraf Ghani, the province's interim governor, warned about weapons and vehicles captured by the Taliban. The people's concern is from the heavy weapons and the Humvees of security forces that fell to the Taliban. Now they got our stuff. You know, we have to get a strategy. We have to get a war strategy in Afghanistan that works. We need a formula that works. And what is working? How do you even measure that? Let's see. Here in the U.S., FBI busts sex trafficking ring selling 3-month-old for $600. You know what? This is from Fox News. This might be clickbait. Let's see what's going on. The FBI announced 84 underage victims and 120 traffickers were arrested from October 12th to October 15th as part of a annual human trafficking sting operation, Cross County 11. The average age of the victims was 15 years old, and the youngest was a 3-month-old infant. Unfortunately, the number of traffickers arrested, the number of children recovered reinforces why we need to continue to work to do this important work. FBI Director Christopher Wray said in a statement, one of the most egregious cases involved a 3-year-old and her 5-year-old sister. A friend who was staying with the family offered to sell them both for sex to an undercover agent in the FBI's Denver office for $600. Huh? Wait. So, one of the most egregious cases involved a 3-month-old girl, a friend who was staying with the family. Oh, a friend who was staying. You know what? Don't have people sleep on your couch when you have kids. That's just a bad idea. One of the girls rescued was 16-year-old from Pecos, Texas, an undercover agent in the FBI. This is just good. Kids that are in these sex rings, and they're just high. We need to, the kids. There are certain kids that just, maybe they need a little bit. I don't know how to say it, but anything that helps them is good. The children that are high risk at getting in trouble or getting arrested or getting kidnapped or getting into these things, we need some kind of a safety net for them. And then we have to, and then the predators just got to go. However, you can get the predators that are able to take advantage of at-risk kids. It's a two-pronged problem. It's one, do something that helps at-risk kids, and then two, go after the predators. Yeah, it's not one. It's both. Let's see. Victim in Maryland workplace shooting had complained about suspect's anger. Family says. So I think sometimes with these workplace shootings, it's just a very mad employee. Bill to halt election meddling on social media introduced. Well, you know what? This is just trolling. This is how Trump won social media. This is from the Hill. Bipartisan legislation to boost social media, add transparency, and curb foreign influence in elections was introduced Thursday. The latest congressional response to the role of Russian hackers using Facebook and other social media to influence the election. I don't know. Our information is very, very, very important. And up until very recently, all the information was got from, not so many sources. Like, you had the news, and the news had its ways to get information. And, people would write books. And it was much more, information was, first of all, information is the most important thing that humans have. And then all of a sudden, we developed social media. And it's kind of like how as soon as they made food that made us fat, we just started eating it immediately because it was just so easy and so cheap, and we just loved it, and we just gobbled it all up, and before you know it, now we're just a bunch of fat people because we're eating too much fat, or not too much fat, too much sugar, and it was humans were still animals, and first it was food, the most important thing to stay alive, and then for humans, information, and the same thing happened in information. We just went after the fast food of information, and we just loved it. And we have to. So is the way to solve that by using legislation, kind of top-down approach to policy? Who knows? Well, it looks like McCain wants to give it a try. He doesn't like Russia, and there's no doubt Russia got us. You can pay money to Facebook, and they'll put your ads in front of anybody you want. That's an incredible power. Facebook just started doing it without telling anybody. And before they're like, whoa, did we have an influence over people? The proposed legislation will affect websites, apps, search engines, social media, and ad networks with over 50 million unique visitors. Such platforms would be required to provide data on campaigns that would... this is probably a good idea. If there's bulk buying, yeah, this I like. Necessary information would include copies of ads, information about the groups purchasing the ads. Additionally, like TV regulations, social media ads must clearly show who is funding such content. Yeah, this is good. For big ticket ad buys, if you're going to be spending, I don't know, $100,000 to Facebook to prop up some political guy, I think that information should be out there. So yeah, this sounds like a good plan. And they're going to negotiate it, and they're going to figure out a way that it works for both sides. Something makes me think this is the one thing that they're going to figure out. Moving on. Dem rep on Weinstein scandal. Women have responsibility to watch their attire and behavior. I'm so sick of this Weinstein thing. Business. 5 best movies featuring Black Monday. Now let's go over these real quick. One Traitor. One Wolf of Wall Street, 2013. This one's a classic. I actually watched it recently. I love it. Every time I watch it, I love it more. That's the thing about Scorsese, is his movies are so rewatchable. They're so detail-oriented, they're so performance-oriented that you can just keep watching them over and over and over again. These movies don't even have plots. Think about, did Godfather have a plot? Where's this ad? Oh, no. That's a Wall Street Journal ad. Here we go. Oh, God, I just clicked on it. Damn it. They always get me. I can't turn it down. I think we got to wait. All right. You know, I should have known that this movie one was going to be. So first one, Wolf of Wall Street. It's just great. Yeah, Martin Scorsese, he very rewatchable movies. The second movie is Trader, 1987. Never seen it. What is it like to be an actual futures trader in 1987? PBS Trader is a riveting documentary made in the first half of the 1987 following Paul Tudor Jones 2. Oh, this one looks good because this is a PBS documentary that was made in 1987. So that'll be like a time capsule. You know, we get blasted to the past. Keep it moving. Trader is one that I'm probably gonna end up watching that. Let's see this one. Cancel Crash. Oops, too far. 2012. The sheer historical power of Black Monday is perhaps conveyed best in the short film Cancel Crash. It was the only time I've seen fear take over greed, recalls investor Blair Hull. The film doesn't just show the New York Stock Exchange in meltdown, it also incorporates recollection from perspective from traders. Anyway, Cancel Crash. This is looks like a... And then that's number 3. Number 4, Remembering Black Monday, 2012. As with any seismic moment in history, some myths have spread out Black Monday, and there are wide mark the notion. Anyway, number 1987 Wall Street is number 5. This one, you know, the movie Oliver Stone. It was really, really good, but Wolf of Wall Street did it way better. Wolf of Wall Street did it way better. So yeah, just watch Wolf of Wall Street. But if you're under 18, you know, might want to ask for your parents' permission on that one. I can totally see why parents would not want their kids watching that. Of all the movies, like, that one makes a lot of sense. If you're a kid, don't watch it unless you ask your mom. And I know there's a lot of kids on YouTube. What would happen if Amazon brought 50,000 workers to your city? Ask Seattle. We went over this a couple videos ago. If you ask Seattle people, would you rather Amazon be here or not? So be here and have all the jobs and have some of the headache, I mean, they are probably buying a lot of land, or just leave. They would all say stay. So I don't know. Boo-hoo for Seattle residents. Alphabet's capital G leads Lyft's $1 billion funding round. So Lyft is all the car companies that are trying to make self-driving cars. What they need are networks. And Uber and Lyft have the networks, the people, everybody's emails. What they need are networks. So each car company, so like Apple is going to have to team up with probably Lyft, or no, Google is teaming up with Lyft, which is so crazy because you would think Google and Uber would be perfect, their interests aligned so much, but then there was a shady deal that went down, and now they're fighting in court. So I think Google is going for Lyft, which I think is probably the best long-run decision. So yeah, we're going to keep on seeing. Every time you see this, like $1 billion funding round, that means that Lyft, they probably need some more money to keep going, but also they have long-term goals, and the way that they make money now might be different in 5 years. Think of the way Netflix started when they made these silicon companies are so smart. Netflix started as a company that mailed DVDs out, and then they turned it into what it is. And Lyft and all these companies they're capable of doing the same thing. I think that's called doing a pivot. And if you're Lyft and you are still very small in the market, you got to pivot. And if Google wants to give you $1 billion, say yes. Moving on, technology. iPhone X arrival could slash iPhone 8 Plus output in half. Yeah, that was so weird about that. There was something going on with sales. Maybe they had like too many of a certain kind, but them announcing the iPhone 8 and the iPhone 10 at the same time, and then skipping the 9, it's like they're just going to gobble up each other's sales, and I don't know why they did that. It's weird. The Nintendo Switch outsold both Xbox One and PS4 last month. Of course. Nintendo has been everybody's best friend since they were kids. I think they're my favorite company. Can you think of any other group of people in the world that have given you more pleasure over your life than Nintendo? For a reasonable price. Nintendo is my favorite stock ever. I just love them so much. But There we go. For years, the NPD report was largely a contest between two manufacturers, Microsoft and Sony, duking it out with their eternally antagonistic but ultimately similar Xbox and PlayStation platforms. Now, when you know it, Nintendo's back at it, and with sort of a blue ocean development, it's well known. The Nintendo Switch was the top-selling current generation console for the third month in a row. Of course, the Switch has outsold the Xbox One for 5. Yes, they sold millions of these things instantly. It only had one game. Because Nintendo is going for a mobile market. So the problem is, back in the days, in order to play your games, you had to be on your couch. Well, now people want to play on their phones, and they want to be able to go back and forth. So Nintendo, they were able to bridge that by essentially developing two really small computers that you take with you. So they had to make really small computers, and it works. So everything we're going to see, it kind of opens up the door to gaming, because now you can play Nintendo in a different way. You don't have to be tied to your TV. And they also have the Pokemon Go network going. So Nintendo is also playing the long game, and it's just going to make kids happy. We don't have specific sales numbers. I know it's in the millions. We do know that Nintendo has sold over 2 million Switches. Yeah, 2 million Switches, in the U.S. alone. That also takes into account significant supply constraints. Hey, and another thing is, that Pokemon Go thing blew up last year. They're in the zeitgeist. And then also, they're making those little Nintendo retro things that they can't keep in stock. Nintendo is awesome. Moving on. They're going to beat everybody. Pixels 2 costs more at Google's own pop-up stores. Why doesn't Google... I think that Google is in a position... They played the long game on everything, on videos, with YouTube, on phones, and tech. They're able to make the Chromebook, which is the craziest thing ever made, for $225. The Chromebook is everything that... The Chromebook is the best piece of machinery for $225 ever made. Why doesn't that same kind of good economical price transition over to phones? It seems like the phones are too expensive. If they can make the Chromebook phone, if they can make the smaller, maybe a $500 version of a sick phone, why don't they just make the price $500? They would destroy everybody. Apple would be gone in no time. I think Google is setting up something huge. Entertainment. Thor Ragnarok is the funniest Marvel movie yet. Just beware of its story. Gosh, that's a spoiler. We knew it was going to be funny. Now they're telling us it's funny, but it's got a stupid story. Margot Robbie transforms into a disgraced figure skater. Now that's kind of funny. Let's take a look at anything Margot Robbie. I'm clicking. She's playing Tonya Harding. She's going to be playing Tonya Harding. I don't know when that's coming out. Shia LaBeouf's arrests and other controversies. You know what? If you ever want to know what it looks like when you do whatever you want at any times, I mean, you've all met them. There are people that just do whatever they want to do no matter what. And they're interesting people. Shia LaBeouf is one of them, and he drinks too much, and he's always getting into fights, and he just does whatever he wants to do, and it worked really well for him until it didn't. And there's a lesson learned for everybody, all the kids out there. The goal is to do whatever you want to do at all times, but maybe that's not the best state for humans to be in. It doesn't end well for people, even though it's really fun at the time. Anyway. You know what? You just save a little bit of money, I guess is what I'm saying. If you make sure that you have a job and you're consistently making money, and it doesn't even have to be much, just make sure that you're making money and save it. So let's hope Shia LaBeouf saved his money. Next, Jeremy Lin has ruptured patellar tendon, season likely over. Oh, that's too bad. Why are the Houston Astros hitting like a team of John Lesters? Oh, it seems like a... Oh, Kershaw looks to send Dodgers to the World Series. There's the Dodgers. Let's just click on that. Coming up, I am going to be doing the Dodgers broadcast later. I doubt anybody's watching these news ones. Nobody watches these news ones. I don't know. I got to come up with a better... I don't know. People don't watch the news ones. Chicago, for the first time in almost 3 weeks, the Los Angeles Dodgers will try to bounce back from a loss. The stakes could not be much higher this time around. Los Angeles holds a decisive 3-1 lead over the Cubs in the National League. A win would vault the Dodgers into the World Series for the first time since 1988. A loss would push back the series to Los Angeles and give the defending champions a renewed sense of hope. Yeah, the Dodgers got to win this one in Wrigley. Let's send them home crying. The Cubs staved off elimination with a 3-2 victory Wednesday night. The Dodgers didn't have their best lineup in. All right, how long have I been going here? 54 minutes. Let's do a couple more. Draymond Green MRI comes back negative. Likely won't play Friday. I don't know what team Draymond Green is on. I've heard that name before. Oh yeah, science is always the best. And I always seem to end on science. Insects are in serious trouble. Man, the insects don't even have it good. Here we go. That is, what is, oh, that's a dragonfly. Insects are in serious trouble in Western Germany. Populations of flying insects have fallen by around 80% in the last 3 years. Well, where are they supposed to go? We got nothing but cities. We got people. We got pollution. Why would they even, like, fly around? This makes a lot of sense. The bottles were getting emptier for the first sign that something awful was happening. Since 1989, scientists from the these science words can be tough. Entomological. It's Entomological Society. Krefeld had been collecting insects in the nature reserves and protected areas of Western Germany. They set up malaise traps, large tents that funnel incoming insect onward, so they're catching insects. But over the years, realized that the bottles were getting emptier and emptier. Well, maybe they know that you're catching them. They're like, what happened to Bob? He flew over to that one flower over there and he never came back. Well, let's stop going to that flower. That's a joke. Insects die and they're born like within like weeks. Unless they can pass down this information. Since 1989, scientists from the... by analyzing the data of 1,500 traps, 27 years of work, Hallman and his colleagues have shown that most flying insects in this part of Germany were flying no more. Between 1989 and 2016, the average weight of insects that were caught fell an astonishing 77% over the same period. Well, maybe whatever food insects eat, they were not doing good with that food and they'd have nothing to eat. We were expecting declines, but the extent was tremendous. Yeah, this is a bad sign. When we mess up the planet, things change slowly, and humans have now we now have an effect on the other animals, and it's never good. And never once have you thought, oh yeah, humans were good at that one. Scientists just found the perfect spot to build an underground colony on the moon. Well, that's good. We got a spot at least. Gizmodo. The Marius Hills skylight, as observed from the Japanese research team. That looks pretty sweet. I'll make sure you guys can see it. It looks like kind of a bigger hill. For years, scientists have wondered if dark crater-like features on the lunar surface might be entrances to giant caverns carved long ago by flowing lava. Researchers from Japan and the United States have uncovered new evidence that prove that these features actually exist, which is good news for further lunar colonists looking for a convenient, safe place to live. New research published shows that several pits located near the Marius Hill region of the moon are large open lava tubes, and these ancient caverns have potential to offer, in words of a pristine environment to conduct scientific examination of the moon's composition and potentially serve as secure shelters for humans and instruments. So, because I think that there's lava there, the rock is a little bit harder, so you can kind of dig in, as opposed to like a random surface, like a random part of the moon. No doubt these caverns would be perfect for aspiring lunar colonists. Inside these large holes, humans would be protected from the sun's dangerous rays and other hazards. The moon has no atmosphere to speak of. Instant shelters would be extremely advantageous. Our future home, view of the eastern Marius Hills with the Marius crater in the top left. So this one? No, top left. Oh, wait. Oh, top right. There's the crater. Yeah, let's go move there. It looks way different here than it does up there. For years, scientists have suspected these lunar features were lava tubes, naturally occurring channels from that form when lava turns into hard crust millions of years ago. When the moon experienced volcanic activity, flowing lava carved the surface, and when these channels drain, they oftentimes left hollow void below. These caverns, should they exist, should be stable enough for subterranean lunar bases. Exactly like I said. Moving on. How to view Uranus without a telescope as it nears Earth tonight? Well, I'm an amateur astronomer. I mean, I've owned 2 telescopes, and I have never seen Uranus, even with a telescope. I can't ever fucking goddamn find it. 6 gazers will have gazers will have a good chance of seeing the icy planet Uranus 1.7 billion miles away Thursday night without the help of a telescope. Uranus is making a close approach to our planet, and it could be visible to the naked eye. A waning moon and the resulting darker sky should help. It's visible all night long, and its blue-green color is unmistakable. It may be bright enough to see with your naked eye for sure binoculars. Uranus is 4 times wider than the Earth for perspective. Yeah, this is I'm gonna take a look. I don't have my telescope here though, so I won't be able to see it, and it's a little cloudy. But I've been looking for Uranus for a long time. It'll be annoying if people first try will just look up and see it without a telescope. That'll be annoying. Who is Chandrasekhar, and why is who is Chandrasekhar, and why is Google celebrating him today? Well, we'll end with this one because I can't pronounce his name. That means we got to learn something about him. What happens to different sized stars when they run out of energy? They go into supernova. We have a better idea of the answer to that question thanks to late astrophysicist Subrahyan Shakrazar, who would have turned 107 today. To honor his birthday, his contributions to understanding one of the most complex universes to offer, Google celebrated him with a Google Doodle illustration. According to The Verge, the influential scientist came up with the concept of what is known today as the Chandrasekhar limit before he turned 20, as he was traveling to the UK on a boat. You know what? These smart people, all they got to do is think. Put them on a boat, put them in a place where don't bug them, and they come up with the good ideas that way. No one ever comes up with a good idea in a group. It seems like Einstein, they're all by themselves, and they got a piece of paper in front of them, and just leave them alone. It lays out what will happen to the star after it runs out of energy. The crux of his concept is this: the star will become a white dwarf after running out of nuclear fuel if it is less than 1.4 times the mass of our sun, The Verge explains. But if the star is bigger, then it will become an all-consuming black hole or an explosive supernova. So the small stars become a white dwarf, so they're not big enough to explode in on themselves, and the bigger ones become the black hole. So you know what? It's a good thing I learned something new today. I did not know that, and now I'm going to remember. This contradicted conventional thought at the time, and it was assumed all stars eventually turned into white dwarfs. Oh, so we thought they all turned into white dwarfs, and then we get bigger telescopes. We're like, no, but there's black holes, and they explode too. You see? We got evidence of these things exploding too, and that's how we knew. He moved to the U.S. in 1936 after he won his Nobel Prize, but the astrophysicist experienced a fair amount of pushback for his revolutionary theory. Yeah, when people have new ideas in science, 99% or 97% of the people on this planet, I would say, do not understand science. That's just my own personal opinion. So in this 3%, what we're talking, where the actual scientists, and you don't even really have to have a degree to do it. You just have to say stuff that contributes to what they're doing. In this 3%, if you have a genuinely a good idea, we're talking like something that's a scientific good idea, that it's peer reviewed, and you're talking about it to people. This is genuinely a good idea, not like I'm trying to think of the guy. He's kind of a pseudoscientist. He's an Indian. He's a physician. Either way, those scientists, that doesn't count in the 3%. The pseudoscientists don't. His name is man, I totally forget his name. Is it Dinesh D'Souza? Anyway, in that 3%, and you actually do have a good idea, those 3% hate you way more than you can ever imagine. It is very, very hardcore to come up with new ideas and push them through these bodies of scientists who seem to be very married to traditional ideas. You'd be very surprised. Scientists, they tend to be very, very open-minded in a lot of things, and except for things that they kind of think to be true. And anyway, it's a hard road ahead. So if you do come up with something new, people don't like you at the beginning. Same thing with Einstein. People didn't really take him too seriously, and it took like 15 years before there was the eclipse that proved him right. And then like, holy crap, he was right the whole time, not realizing that he was right. Einstein was right for 15 years, and for those 15 years, nobody took him seriously. And can you imagine how annoying that would be if you're Einstein? That's got to be the most annoying thing ever. But I think it happens to all these scientists. And that's what we're going to end on. So nice job, Chandrasekhar, for coming up with a good idea, moving to America, sticking to it, and now we're celebrating you right now. And we're going to leave it there. Thanks, everybody, for watching. I'm going to get better at this. Okay, bye.